The date is March 28, 2012. My name is Paul Robards, Library Director at Roberts Memorial Library. I'll be speaking with G.W. Crabb from Warner Robins, Georgia today about his experiences in the Vietnam War. Mr. Crabb, what branch of the military did you serve in?
Army.
Why did you join?
I didn't. Drafted.
How old were you when you were drafted?
About 22 or 23.
What was your hometown?
Kind of hard to say. My father was career military, NCO, but I was born in Dublin, lived in Warner Robins, lived in Macon, all over. I guess you could, if I had an, it's hard to say a hometown. I never lived anywhere.
Military brat.
Anytime, right.
I'm a Navy brat.
Well, you understand.
Where did you receive your basic training?
Fort Benning.
Where did you attend advanced training, and how long did it last?
Advanced training was Fort McClellan, Alabama. Exactly how long it lasted, I don't remember. It seemed like forever. And the thing about it, even though, and I don't know if you'll get into it, is even though I knew that I was headed to Artillery Officer Candidate School and basic training, I went to infantry, AIT, rather than artillery. I think it was a screw up, and I didn't know enough to know that it was. But later on, I was pretty convinced it was. It was an administrative screw up.
Imagine that, huh? Did all this training sufficiently prepare you for your duties in Vietnam?
Not to that point. The type training didn't. Because I was everything up to through AIT had been I was going to be a ground pounder infantry, not be responsible for firing heavy artillery and directing heavy artillery.
Did the military training change you in any way?
Yes, I think so. I think it changed me for the better. I had different stages of training, and OCS is going to come along, and there's some comments I'd like to make about the training. But maybe it's not at this point right here. But as far as the basic training and AIT, the physical conditioning was absolutely great. I've never been in better shape in my life, so I thought it was fine.
What was your job description or occupation code?
At what point? We need to be careful because at probably up through AIT, it was as if I were an infantry troop.
But it was artillery, actually, in the end.
Actually, I spent my about 2 years as artillery, field artillery officer.
How did you feel when you learned you were going to Vietnam?
I had expected it from the day I was drafted, and I think I was not alone in thinking that way. So it was not like, oh, man, here I'm going to Vietnam. I expected it the day I got drafted. It was the stateside assignment I had with that maintenance battalion was pretty boring, and I was actually welcomed a change, although I was not looking forward to Vietnam as a change.
What was your opinion about the Vietnamese people when you first arrived in Vietnam, and did your opinion about them change over time?
At first, I didn't have a whole lot of contact with them, but as I did make more and more contact with them, especially when I was assigned to the Vietnamese infantry battalion, I feel like I gained an insight that some of the troops that weren't as close to the South Vietnamese soldier and some of the South Vietnamese people that they may not have gotten.
What dates did you serve in Southeast Asia?
September of 68 to September of 69.
What are the names of the units you were assigned to?
It was 7th Battalion, 8th Artillery, and 54th Artillery Support Group, I think. It's a long title, but they had various firing batteries, so I was assigned to different firing batteries within the battalion at different times.
Describe your living conditions, housing, and food in Vietnam.
I probably had it better than a lot, but worse than some. At the fire bases, it was pretty good. The food was fine. I was at 2 fire bases where we did not have really have bunkers to sleep in. Of course, in those 2 fire bases, although we did get mortar and rocket attacks, mainly rocket attacks at one base, like near Benoit, because it was had such a big perimeter. The other bases, we got everything, small arms and mortar. But the base I spent the most time at, Ben Luck, down in the Delta, we slept in bunkers. We had to, or I wouldn't be here. We had to. Of course, you had to work. You couldn't fire a gun out of a bunker, so you were exposed walking around such as that. But I think the conditions there were pretty good. Food was good. No real complaints.
What did you do for entertainment?
I don't remember much entertainment. Play a little card, some card games. But I never took an R&R. Never had a day off, so I didn't go to the in-country R&R places or anything like that.
Describe the most memorable event that happened when you were in Vietnam.
There are a lot of things that are just, as clear as a bell in my mind right now. But when that AK-47 round just missed me and ricocheted around my head and dropped between my legs, that was very memorable. Because just a few inches more and it got me right between the eyes.
Describe the bravest action, either friend or enemy, that you witnessed while serving in Vietnam.
I think the bravest actions were the medevac pilots. They came in many times when we were under fire to take out wounded and dead. Those guys, and night. Everything generally happened at night. Those guys were really great. Now there were a lot of people that I think were unsung heroes from a standpoint of the dedication they did. The maintenance folks, the artillery maintenance folks, they probably didn't average 4 hours of sleep a night. This is day in and day out. Civil engineers, those guys, you don't see big specials about, this decorated combat engineers or maintenance folks. But the dedication those people had. I'll give you an example. It was Christmas Day down in the Delta, that fire base. And those big artillery pieces had to have platforms, timbers, or they'd sink into the mud. And the civil engineers had to periodically come in and repair them. Well, I'll never forget that one day, it was Christmas Day, and those guys showed up at the crack of dawn and jumped out of those trucks, worked all day long. When they pulled up there, I thought, I wonder if they know it's Christmas Day. And even if they do, did it matter to them? They had a mission to do, and man, they just, it was impressive. And it's that sort of thing I don't think, I never see. I never see people giving credit to people like that. They worked their butts off. They didn't get medals and this sort of stuff and all sort of recognition. So I'd like to somehow see, well, it's too late now, see those folks get some
Many of them,
recognition.
yes. Could you tell me about your first encounter with the enemy?
Mortar attack. Pretty much feeling like it was Russian roulette, the luck of the draw. One might hit you, one might not,
Take your chances, huh?
Of course, it was at night.
Evaluate the enemy's overall fighting ability. What were their strengths and weaknesses?
I think they were dedicated and skillful, and I have nothing but respect for them as fighters.
What is your evaluation of the South Vietnamese fighting units and their military and civilian leaders?
I think they were equally capable with Americans. There's something that, and to this day, and I see it even in Iraq and other places, a lack of understanding to me of the differences. There is a difference between that South Vietnamese soldier or that Afghanistan soldier. Number one, an American in Vietnam or any combat situation is normally there for, say, a year. They can afford to maybe play John Wayne for a year. They know after that year, they're out of there. so they can take more chances. That foreign troop is there for the duration. They're not going to rotate out. They're not going to get R&R. It's not going to happen. So if they play John Wayne, they're dead. Okay, they made it through a year being gung-ho. Maybe the second year. Third year, the odds are, bam, you're gone. Something else. The American soldier, my family was not over there in harm's way. Their family is in harm's way, plus there was a lot of, their family was in danger of the Viet Cong sympathizers versus those that weren't sympathizing with the Viet Cong. Their families, and the soldier, he had that to weigh heavily on his mind, that situation. I've seen people, a farmer come in that was killed by a landmine right outside of our concertina wire. And they brought him in because we would evacuate the civilians and stuff like that. 45 minutes, they brought a old woman in. This farmer's son, South Vietnamese soldier, killed this woman because he knew she was a Viet Cong sympathizer. So I had 2 dead people in there from kind of like different sides within 45 minutes. So it's, to me, there's a reason that the foreign troops, there's nothing basically wrong with them. They're not basically don't want to fight. They're circumstances that are very, very different. And I don't feel to this day that the American public or military leaders understand that. It's something you have to deal with. I mean, it's not saying you can do anything about it, but at least understand and don't throw rocks at them because they're not as gung-ho as your U.S. troop that family's out of harm's way and they're not there for the duration. So I'm sorry to get on my soapbox so much on that, but I think that's a key thing that very few folks, I've not run into anybody that kind of voiced my view on that the way I see it.
What citations and awards did you receive?
The Bronze Star for service in Vietnam.
As a soldier in Vietnam, why did you think the U.S. was involved in the war?
Back that time to halt the spread of communism, the old sing-song of that.
Does your opinion about the reason for U.S. involvement in the war differ now?
No, I don't think any.
How did you feel about your military service in Vietnam when you left?
I was glad to have survived. I think it gave me an insight on an aspect of life and death that I would have never got otherwise.
What was it like for you when you arrived back in the United States?
Depressing, extremely depressing.
Do you believe that Vietnam veterans were discriminated against when they returned to the U.S.?
Yes. The thing about it, there were no welcoming parties for me. Circumstances for me were a little bit odd in that I went to Vietnam by myself. I came back by myself. I was alone. But I would have, as soon as I could get out of the uniform, I did, because I felt like it was hostility toward me. But that my haircut gave me away. Back then, a simple little thing, the haircut, I stood out. I didn't have to have my uniform on for them to know, hey, there's a GI. It was, I wanted my hair to grow out so I would fit in and they wouldn't know that I was a GI. I didn't want them to know. And back then, you just wouldn't see military folks going to ball games or anything in their uniform. That wouldn't be seen. I mean, there would be, what in the hell are they doing here? So, there are no welcoming parties for the Vietnamese generation. And the thing about it is that, each generation, the public, the population, has an opportunity to either support their veterans or whatever, or not. And they didn't do it. I don't think anybody can say they did it in the Vietnam era. And now the generation, which is great. I'm glad for these the military now, because the public supports them, and they get benefits. They get free tickets to games and such as that. Their generation is taking care of them, but the generation now, they're not. They don't care about me. The fact that I was in Vietnam or whatever, I don't get a free pass to a ball game. I don't get a free pass to anything.
How has the war affected your life most? Have you experienced marriage problems, changes in religious beliefs, health problems, or ability to socialize?
Well, I think a lot of folks that went to Vietnam screwed up, came back screwed up. I think I went over with a pretty level head, and for the most part came back with a level head. As far as marital, it probably delayed my getting married to some extent, maybe a lot. While I was there, I got a Dear John letter from my girlfriend, not just saying that she found somebody she liked better, but it was, I'm getting married next week. And I thought, I wish I'd kept that letter. I don't know what it did. I just threw it in the trash, I guess. But when I got back to the States, she sent word that she would like to talk to me. So I met her at a coffee shop. And apparently her marriage didn't shake out quite the way she wanted. And she says, why didn't you do something? That's referring to when she wrote me and told me that she was getting married. Why didn't you do something? I said, what in the hell did you expect me to do? I'm just trying to live through the day. What did you expect me to do? She didn't have an answer for that. And that's the last time I saw her.
If you could change anything about this experience, what would it be?
What, the Vietnam experience?
Yeah, your whole Vietnam experience.
Oh, I would have gone to flight school, tried to go to flight school. They made more money and always had shiny boots. And, whereas I was out there in the middle of a rice paddy area getting mortared, they flew back to go to the officers club.
Thank you for your service and